Okay, everybody. Welcome to Intro to Fitwel, Building Health for All. My name is Chris Cooperine. I'm the Communications and Marketing Specialist for Connecticut Green Building Council. Today we have Katie Symonds, who's going to be presenting. A couple of housekeeping notes. The Connecticut Green Building Council is a 501c3 organization. We are membership-based, and we do our best to try to accelerate a healthy, resilient, equitable, and sustainable transformation in Connecticut's built environment. So we appreciate everybody taking the time to learn about Fitwel today. A couple of things about the session. This is recorded. Please use the chat box in order to put in any questions. We will do the presentation and then have questions and answers at the end. And of course, put them in there as you think of them, so that way you don't forget them in the meantime. Today we're going to be meeting with Katherine Roden Symonds, Katie Symonds. She's a senior project architect over at CJ Architecture. And with that, I'm going to have her bring up her slides.
Okay. Let's see. Oops, fast forwarded. Sorry. Okay. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Just wanted to say, as a board member at CTGBC, I've been involved in a number of events that CTGBC has put on, and they're always, subject matter that's important and relevant, and there's a lot of good educational events. So just want to put in a plug for coming to more of them. I got some sort of thing about it. Okay, so this presentation is about Fitwel, which is a certification system that's based on the goal of improving the health and well-being of building occupants and community occupants. And Fitwel really tries to be a resource and a recognition program for real estate to the real estate industry to measure, improve, and celebrate achievements. So what I was going to talk about is an introduction to Fitwel for anyone who doesn't know a lot about it, and the healthy building movement in general. I know a lot of us are familiar with the healthy building movement, but the state of health today, a little history of health and design and how design can impact health, and then the financial case for healthier buildings and spaces, which I think, it's important for all of us to be aware of. Little overview of the standard itself, the certification process, and some of the aspects of Fitwel that make it unique. So Fitwel is maintained, the standard is maintained and certified by the Center for Active Design, which is an international nonprofit organization that works globally to advance its mission, which is to transform design and development practice in ways that support health and quality of life. So the Center for Active Design was launched in 2012 by then New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and it was intended to continue the work that had been begun by an interagency collaboration, promoting evidence-based strategies that support all aspects of mental health, social health, and physical health. And so Fitwel really focuses on health in the holistic standpoint. So mental, social, and physical health is all interrelated, and aspects of the certification system apply to all of them. And so the Center for Active Design also leads programs that impact neighborhoods, housing, and research and advocacy. These are, sorry, this is kind of blurry. These are some reports and studies that the center has done that are available on its website. And it's really trying to push, again, to push the real estate industry to the inclusion of health as standard practice across the board. So just a little background and history. So back in the late 19th, early 20th century, nearly half of all deaths in the United States were caused by infectious diseases like tuberculosis, pneumonia, and gastrointestinal infections. And in response to this, cities looked at infrastructure and policy development to try to craft a way to prevent, to approach the prevention of infectious diseases. And so things like overcrowding in cities, lack of clean drinking water was a problem. And so there was, an effort for the creation of reservoirs, the creation of open parklands, land use regulations that promoted those, the creation of the subway system that helped to reduce overcrowding in Manhattan, allow people to expand outside of the city. And all of those efforts eventually helped to reduce chronic diseases drastically, by about 1940 here. And, but then you fast forward to today, and at the same time as infectious diseases were decreasing, chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, stroke, asthma, all of those started to surpass infectious diseases as the leading cause of death. And, I think a lot of us are aware that the reason this happened is our environment became more car-centric, and opportunities for physical activity were designed out of our lives, basically. So fast forward to present day, and 7 out of 10 deaths each year in the United States. And so this data is from Fitwel prior to COVID. I'm not sure how this would be changed for that, but 7 out of 10 deaths in this data are attributed to chronic disease, smoking, tobacco use, exposure to pollutants, poor diet, and physical inactivity. And today we've reached a point where physical inactivity is, almost comparable to smoking in terms of how it affects our health, right? And being a preventable cause of death. We spend roughly 90% of our lives indoors and are very affected by the environments that we spend that time in. And this slide is really just showing how the different aspects, again, of health, mental, social, and physical, all interrelate. And so, effects on our social isolation, our social ties affect our health, our mental health, and our physical health. And so Fitwel, the categories that it describes try to incorporate health measures that improve all of these things. So holistic health. So the business case for health, consumers and employees, I think, have caught on to all of the ways design impacts health, right? And it's been shown, and through Fitwel's research, it's been proven that we are increasingly preferring health promoting environments. And there is a strong business rationale for this. Productivity costs in the US, employees who have more than one or more chronic disease conditions are estimated to take 450 million additional days off of work each year, and compared with their healthy coworkers. So that's significant. Absenteeism is estimated to cost employers more than $2,000 per employee. and per year, which adds up. And talent attraction. So millennials now make up the majority of our workforce. And most of them want to take into account their quality of life when they're choosing where they work. And they would trade other benefits for better workplaces. And so the business case for health in terms of residential development is the same. For housing, more than ever, people are, seeking housing that promotes health. Makes sense. But a lot of people complain. So this study is saying that 38% reported they don't have convenient outdoor spaces for physical activity, or the traffic near their homes make it difficult or unsafe to walk around. And most people, as you can see on this slide, would prefer walkable communities. So this is actually a number of initial points in Fitwel are related to providing walkable spaces. And Fitwel really focuses on not only on the building, but on the site in which the building sits, and promoting use of the spaces surrounding the building, incorporating, making them places where people would want to sit, want to be outside. So bringing the people from inside the building out and bringing people from the neighborhood in. And then additionally, Fitwel provides strategies for incorporating daylight and reducing light pollution and noise pollution, and improving the indoor environmental quality for residential development, as well as workplace and commercial development. So as an example of the site around the building, so tree canopy is associated with more closely knit communities, strong social bonds, and decreased mortality, as an example of how the site can improve our health in many ways, improving social health as well as mental health and physical health. There's that slide again. The financial drivers are important as well. And so this graph shows the results of a study which found that stock values for a portfolio of companies that score high on health and well-being appreciated by 235% as compared with the S&P 500 index, which is the red line here, which appreciated only 159% over a 6-year period. And then these other lines, this blue line and this green line, are other health initiatives active design. One of the studies that they completed recently in 2021 was this new investor consensus, which surveyed a number of people, basically saying, and the survey respondents experienced increased demand for healthy buildings, right, over the past 1 to 2 years. And 92% of respondents expect that demand to grow over the next 3 years.
Hi, everybody. It looks like Katie's having a few connection issues. I'm going to try to get her back on. You're muted, Katie.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I got this warning. My internet was unstable, but I'm hardwired. So
So we just missed about the last minute or so.
Minute. Okay, let's see. I apologize. Okay. So let me back up.
So if you want to go back a slide.
Did you see
To
this
there.
one?
That's as
Did
far as
you-
we got.
Okay, did we hear any of this or?
Just that there was a survey. Okay.
Okay, so the Center for Active Design conducted a survey, a study called a New Investor Consensus, which surveyed, investment in healthy buildings, and 87% of respondents experienced an increased demand in healthy buildings over the past 1 to 2 years. 90% of respondents plan to enhance their company's health and wellness strategy in the coming year. And so this is desired. It's a growing demand. And actually 61% of respondents report using healthy building certification systems, which is interesting. And 74% agree that tracking data is a key priority for integrating healthy buildings into ESG strategies. This is just a link to the survey. It's called a New Investor Consensus. It might be a good resource for anyone looking to help communicate information about the demand for healthy buildings. MIT did a similar study in 2020 showing that commercial properties with healthy building certifications do garner rental premiums between 4 to 7% higher than non-certified neighboring properties. And then investment trends, millennials, who again are now a majority of employees, are interested in investing in companies that promote environmental, social, and governance factors, ESG factors, and targeting the health of a building or site by using the strategies found within the Fitwel standard can assist in fulfilling the social component of companies' ESG goals. So that's just a little background, and to get into more detail about Fitwel, all of the design and operations strategies within Fitwel are evidence-based. Fitwel really prides itself on that. They have a number of different partners, including the CDC, that assist with providing evidence and updating evidence consistently. And it tries to provide actionable strategies for design professionals based on that evidence base. The Fitwel was created and piloted by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, which we all know is, the organization responsible for control and prevention of disease, injury, and disability in the U.S. And it was also piloted by the General Services Administration, which controls all federal buildings. Sorry, keep hitting buttons by accident. So the CDC piloted Fitwel across a random selection of buildings across the US, different building types, and incorporated a number of research studies into the development of the standard. And then the Center for Active Design became Fitwel's operator and is responsible for third-party certification, just based on a competitive bid process. And now the CFAD, as it's called, maintains everything. The CDC remains a research partner and again is continually evaluating and updating the standard. The development took over 5 years, was based on 5,000 plus evidence-based research studies. And there's a number of different certification systems that we'll talk about. But first, just some of the unique characteristics of Fitwel, because there's a number of different rating systems out there, right? Sustainable rating systems and health rating systems. So what makes Fitwel unique? Fitwel really focuses on health at the community and the population level, with the idea that if the community health is improved, that will in turn lead to help to improve the health of building occupants. And then on top of that, Fitwel has strategies for building occupants. In addition, there are no prerequisites or required strategies in order to achieve Fitwel. So this is different from a lot of other rating systems where you have to meet a set of prerequisites in order to get certified. And WELL, for example, has preconditions that can be really difficult to meet. And as a comparable health standard, Fitwel, can sometimes be seen as a little bit easier to achieve in some ways because there aren't prerequisites, and projects can really determine what points to go after based on their unique circumstances. Another aspect of Fitwel is it has an online platform that we'll talk about, and teams can benchmark their buildings in that platform without certifying. And so, you could have a whole portfolio of buildings in the platform and see how each one ranks in terms of Fitwel, and then decide which to certify. So you would have to register. There's a $500 registration fee, but then you would be able to benchmark your building and learn from that benchmarking, understand what strategies are working and how you can improve. And then another aspect of Fitwel is that it has its scoring is based on a dynamic point system, which I'll talk a little bit about. Its point system prioritizes points based on what Fitwel calls health impact categories. So that's what these squares are on the screen. Whether it impacts surrounding community health or reduces morbidity and absenteeism, so provides social equity for vulnerable populations, increases physical activity, promotes occupant safety, enhances access to healthy foods, or instills feelings of well-being. And so it supports these different health standards. And then the amount of points that you get for each credit is based on how many of these different health impacts that credit basically supports, as well as what is the strength of the evidence behind the credit. And so a credit with more points, and I'll show you this score system in a little bit here, has more evidence behind it, or it's impacting a number of different health impacts. It's not just enhancing access to healthy foods, it's also promoting safety and increasing physical activity. This is what Fitwel calls its portfolio-based approach. Fitwel was designed, they like to say, so that a vast majority of buildings can use the standard. It includes all different typologies, so existing or new construction, rehab or renovation, owned or leased spaces, campuses, single-story, multi-story, senior housing, multifamily, residential, but there really are only a few scorecards, and I'll show those. There's a community scorecard, which applies to master planned developments, other community type site developments, neighborhood districts. And then there's a commercial site scorecard, which supports commercial complexes, light industrial, warehouses, things like that. And then there is the workplace scorecard, which supports commercial interior space. And then within that, there's categories for a single tenant building versus a multi-tenant building. and whether the building is a base building or a whole building. There's a retail scorecard and multifamily residential scorecard. And so these, when I first learned about this, I thought this seemed rather limiting. What about schools? What about institutional projects? What about libraries? There are ways to apply Fitwel to other project types, but it really is based on the workplace aspects within those projects. So if you wanted to apply Fitwel to a school project, you could get that school Fitwel certified, but it would be the administrative offices, the school offices, the workplace. It would become a Fitwel certified workplace, not a Fitwel certified school, if that makes any sense. The classrooms, while you could incorporate all of those great design strategies in classrooms, it's just the way it's titled, it would not be a Fitwel certified school. So there is a way of categorizing Fitwel projects, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. As far as questions, we talked about saving them until the end, so I'm happy to answer any questions about anything I'm talking about there. The other thing with Fitwel is that it allows for both a design certification and a build certification. So a project that is in design, once the design's been solidified and prior to it being occupied, that project can achieve a design certification. And then once a project is occupied, once it's built, or existing buildings would apply for a built certification. And so this allows the flexibility of, if you have an existing space that meets the requirements, it can achieve a built certification. Fitwel has a number of partners that it works with that are other certifications. And for example, there are credits in Fitwel that can be achieved by meeting certain LEED points, mainly for interiors, building interiors. And then these are other certifications that Fitwel also works with. And so Fitwel could be a pathway for achieving, ESG performance. And then Fannie Mae has a Healthy Housing Rewards program, and a number of other things. BOMA Canada, BREEAM, UL. I can go more into that if anyone's interested. This is the Fitwel certification process. It's pretty, standard. It's similar to what you would go through if you were applying to certify a LEED project. For example, you would register the project on the Fitwel portal. Registration fee is pretty low. So Fitwel likes to pride itself on a $500 registration fee, no matter what the project is. And then once you have that, you create an account and enter basic project information, select the appropriate scorecard, and start plugging in information according to the strategies to determine what strategy makes sense. And then you can archive or benchmark your project and understand what your rating might be at step 3. And then at that point, you can either continue working and come back to it, or decide to, hey, register a different project if it's not going to work out. But then once it's decided that you would want to proceed with the certification process, you would upload your documentation. And then this whole process from step 4 to step 6 should take about 12 to 16 weeks. Fitwel would respond to comments, and then you'd have a chance to, on the Fitwel portal, as they call it, you would see the comments and be able to respond back. And then you're given certification score and associated star rating. One thing that's important to remember is Fitwel is certifications only valid for 3 years. So recertification, and that's a way of just making sure that we're maintaining, healthy buildings over time. Recertification is a $500 fee, so it's not, it's not an incredible cost to do so, but anytime within the 3-year period from your initial certification, you would just apply to be recertified again. So these are the Fitwel star ratings. Again, there's no prerequisites, so it's really just a calculation of the number of points achieved, and then the star rating would come from that. Fitwel plaque can be purchased, and that demonstrates your star rating. This is what the Fitwel portal looks like. It's very similar, to Lead Online, and you could. It's interactive. It shows the health impact categories and your anticipated Fitwel score. And your strategies remaining. You can respond to those strategies, benchmark projects again, and upload documentation. What else? This is just showing the comments back and forth to Fitwel on each strategy. And so that's it for the general Fitwel overview. I have some other things that I'd like to show, but this is, if you'd like to get connected with Fitwel, the website is fitwel.org, Twitter and LinkedIn. And then I'm gonna hop out of this for a minute. So the document, this is the document that I talked about that helps provide guidance for projects that aren't necessarily straightforward workplace projects or retail projects. So if you're working on an airport terminal, for example, what scorecard would you, what would you apply for, and what portions of the building would be applicable? And so this is also available online. So this, helps project teams understand, based on what their project is, what would be applicable. And it's not really just limited to just workplace or retail spaces. There is a site scorecard. I didn't talk too much about that, but there's the commercial site and the community site, and different types of site developments and how those would apply. And then as far as the scorecard itself, this document, let's see, I think it's better actually if I don't go full screen. So this document is a strategy alignment document. So it has 3 of the scorecards: the workplace, retail, and multifamily residential scorecards. And it just shows what strategies are applicable to what scorecards, basically, and the points that you can achieve varies. But Fitwel starts with your location and really places a priority on how walkable that location is, and you can achieve different points based on that. How close is it to transit? And then from there, it moves into access to the building. And so some of these points are similar to what you might see in LEED: bicycle parking, showers, things like that, taking it a step farther to long-term bicycle parking, bike share access. But Fitwel also goes into safe street infrastructure for pedestrians and bicyclists. And what types of amenities are available on sidewalks. And then from there, Fitwel moves into outdoor spaces. So the spaces that are directly around the base of the building, providing proximity to open space, to walking trails, fitness areas, playgrounds, providing access to a restorative garden, a farmer's market, even fruit and vegetable garden, pathway and area lighting, tobacco and smoke-free areas. And then from there, it moves into entrances and the ground floor. and making sure those entrances provide safe entry, so providing enough lighting at all building entrances, providing a publicly accessible use on the ground floor, so providing something like a library or some sort of public space that encourages the public to engage with the building, and vice versa. And so really trying to, again, holistically look at health, so social health, involving that in the building design and the space design around the building. Activating pedestrian areas, entryway systems is kind of your standard, providing entryway systems for indoor air quality. There's a focus on stairs, making sure the stair is visible, encouraging use of the stairs, so providing artwork in the stair, providing active, design strategies in the stair that encourage people to use the stair to make it interesting. And then indoor environments, so indoor air quality, again, is an important part of the standard. Green purchasing, acoustic quality, and then moving into the workspaces themselves, providing enough daylight, views of nature, active workstations. And so you can see some of these are relevant to, again, the workspace certification versus the green is residential. And so some of these aren't applicable. And you can see how the points vary from system to system. Shared spaces. So making sure that shared spaces are treated the same way and provided with different services, mainly for the workspace certifications. Providing exercise rooms, fitness facilities, providing health programming for regular occupants, kitchen facilities, and establishing a stakeholder collaboration process is important too. Looking at the water supply for the building, and then prepared food areas. So providing healthy options for food, even access to a full service grocery store for multifamily residential, establishing healthy food policies for all programs for workplace and residential. Healthy vending machines, that's a whole section. And then emergency preparedness. And some points for that. So let's see, that's pretty much all that I had as an overview for today. I can open it up to questions. I have not been monitoring the chat, so stop my share.
Okay. So one question is Fitwel an organization that defines and does the entire certification? Does it require consultants like LEED or WELL?
So Fitwel does the third-party certification. Does it provide, is the question, does Fitwel provide like almost like a WELL assessor? Is that?
I think so, and same with the LEED.
When you run through the process, you will be assigned, I believe, a Fitwel contact, and so through the portal, you would be able to communicate back and forth. But there's not in the sense of WELL where you have an assessor who's going to come out and test. There's not the same sort of performance testing like that, but you would have a contact to go back and forth with.
Okay, let me take a stab at the first part of that question again. I guess if they're wanting to see is it kind of a self an autonomous type certification. You know, the organization itself defines exactly what it is, and it does the certification part of it.
Yes, so the Center for Active Design does the certification, defines, it maintains the standard, right? So it defines the standard, maintains it, based on the evidence, provided from its partners. Did I get it right that time?
Yeah, I think we both did. And then follow up from the same person, who does the work of benchmarking? Is it the organization or is it the building?
The work of benchmarking. So the work of benchmarking would be done by whoever is sort of the Fitwel ambassador or the person leading the charge on Fitwel. And so it could be either, it could be, you could have a real estate portfolio with a number of different, your organization could have a portfolio with a number of different buildings in it. It could be that the design professional does that benchmarking for the organization.
Do you see the follow-up?
Yeah, I'm just reading. So if you, so the consultant could promote Fitwel and help through the process. Yep. And you could become a Fitwel ambassador. And then that gives you the tools to help promote Fitwel. And so that's an easy process. Well, it's a process. So you can, it's similar to, becoming LEED accredited or well accredited, but it's actually a significantly easier process. There's like a webinar, you pay, you register, you watch a webinar, you study the rating systems, and then you take a quiz, and you have 3 chances to pass that quiz. And so at that point you could become an ambassador, and then you would have the formal certification to help with that. Does that, yeah, okay.
Great. Melissa had thought it was very interesting that restaurants can't be certified. Is that true?
Actually, I haven't looked at restaurants in particular. Did they not show up in this list? Yeah, restaurant NA, yeah. I know, I do think it's disappointing. And I'm sure it's something that we could comment on and ask that they work on, and it really, I guess the Fitwel standard really is geared toward workplace. It's really geared mainly toward workplace, but I would think that restaurants would qualify, as part of that, but there are definitely things that they need to work on. I would argue that they need a school certification too.
Right. Okay, what other questions do people have?
Yeah, I'm happy to start a conversation. So I agree. Schools, it's kind of ridiculous that they don't have schools, because it seems like a lot of the project types are based on somebody being there for a long period of time. Like if it's you're a worker or you're a resident, that makes sense. But the fact that they don't have schools is a big hole. Do you know if they have any intention of filling that hole?
I did, I didn't ask that question, but I asked about the school certification, and that's when they sent me back the spreadsheet and said, oh yeah, schools can get certified, but they can't, or you're not certifying the classrooms. So I don't know, but I think it is something to push with them. It's definitely lacking. I mean, there's a lot of institutional buildings that would benefit from this, that you still spend a lot of time in.
Right, or that kids are spending all day in.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder, so Well would certify a school, wouldn't it? I think of Well as more like hospitality and retail, like hospitality, mostly that, but I think they're maybe a little more flexible when it comes to project types.
Yes, definitely. and it's interesting, just since we're having a conversation, a lot of our hospitality clients, now that I'm working on some hospitality projects, are not interested in well.
Mm.
Isn't that, I was really surprised. I was excited to be able to work on hospitality projects thinking they would get incorporated, but a lot of clients aren't interested at all.
So why did you choose Fitwel over, Fitwel over well as the certification to go for?
I do have both
Oh, that's right.
well and Fitwel, and I decided while I was doing well, so at my last job, we did a lot more interior office spaces, and we would have clients that were interested in well, and they just well is just really hard to achieve. You have the well assessor and the performance verification process, and that can completely throw you off, and when it's tested. And so, we would have spaces where the acoustics just don't meet the precondition in well, and suddenly everything that you want to incorporate for a healthy building doesn't matter because you have a mechanical system that is just a little bit too noisy, or and then it just became very difficult. And so clients would instead prefer to pursue the Fitwel standard, because while it does seem to have some issues, as we brought up, it doesn't require any prerequisites, and it is less stringent in the sense that it's not as performance based, and you can kind of gear, you can pursue points that are applicable to your project. So it is a little bit easier in that sense. And so I wanted to be sure that I could help with that process, help give clients options.
Sure. Do you know of any Fitwel buildings in Connecticut?
That's a good question. I don't off the top of my head.
Well, I think we'll have to look into that as an organization and then see about trying to get a tour there. If we do any tours, we'll make sure that we email out the attendees of this event, since you already have interest in the certification.
Well, I know that Caroline at least did a lot of benchmarking at Eversource. Not sure, how applicable that is, but I know she was really deep into the certification. Have you talked to Caroline at all about her experiences?
No, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I'll have to ask her about it.
But yeah, I'm also not aware of any projects off the top of my head.
Anybody else? Has anybody worked on anything with Fitwel from any of the participants? And if not, that's okay. That's why you're here.
No, I've always admired it from afar. I really like that, it's based on actual health impacts, like the points are allocated based on, it always felt like a little more grounded in reality to me than well, because well's got things like vitamin C infused. I don't know, does well still have vitamin C infused showers as a point?
I don't know.
Like that's maybe if that's like the bike racks of like for lead for me for well, like kind of makes me not kind of feel like it's a little out there.
Yeah.
But also because Deepak Chopra is like one of the trustees or the board members or something. It always kind of felt like a little bit
Esoteric.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
but I've
agree.
never actually tried to apply it to a building, so maybe I'm just being overly prejudiced or
No, I don't think so at all. I think a lot of people feel that way once they try to work with it,
Okay. Well, a last call then for questions, comments, overall thoughts about this. we understand that's been it's a very busy time of year as we're heading into the holiday season. So we very much appreciate that everybody's taken the time to join us today.
Yeah, and I guess I would add, if there are any follow-up questions, feel free to email me. I went through everything really fast, so I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. This was a presentation put on by the Connecticut Green Building Council. For anybody who's interested in learning more about our programs, our membership, and everything else we do, please visit us at ctgbc.org. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you.